In this episode, we dive into mental overwhelm and struggle and what actually creates it. And very often you hear people talking about mental health and the signs of mental health, and you're going to recognize that you actually have health already. You just need to tap into it. This is one of the most fundamental things that I train my students on as we go through a therapeutic process with the Quranic Science of the Nafs. This is a psychology, a behavioral science, and I'm going to talk to you about this over the next 100 days. I'm going to be sharing regular updates and lessons and gems that you can actually use in your life. And this is the beginning of that. This is the most fundamental thing that every human being needs, but especially like the believers. Like, if you want to have the best life ever, you have to be the one that does these things that I'm going to share with you, and it's perfectly within your reach. Doesn't matter what stage of life you're at, doesn't matter how long you feel like you've been stuck for. If you are getting caught in mental, in emotional highs and lows, then you can overcome it. Even if you've got a diagnosis of bipolar or whatever it is that you've been diagnosed with, it is not a life sentence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to actually dominate and own our lives. So in this episode, I want to dive into that, but I want to start with sharing with you the most fundamental things that you need to overcome, like mental and emotional drama. Mental and emotional drama, it is normal that you experience this, but it's not normal that you get stuck in this. So it's really important to understand where it all comes from, and that's what I want to talk to you about in this episode. So there are three things that we'll touch on. Like, we will cover these three things over the next 100 days. I'm going to be talking to you about different things. So you want to subscribe to the channel, you want to subscribe to what I'm doing in the Muslim Life Coach Institute, all of the programs that I run, it is all catered towards giving you results in these three things. Number one, the most important thing that every human being needs is that we need to have this relationship, like this divine relationship. And let me tell you, you are not divine. You are human. You and I, we're creation of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divine. So the thing is, but what that does is that when you have a divine relationship, what that does is that you have a connection to the creator of the heavens and the earth. And that is powerful. So I want to talk to you about spirituality. Number two, the habits of success. Like, to create success in your life, it is not good enough just to accumulate things, because like many of my students who are very successful materially, that no matter how much no matter how many assets you've got, how much you gather from the dunya, like, you don't feel the success until you have some of the ingredients of success dialed into your life. So we're going to talk about that. Number three is relationships. Now, relationships, like, my God, like, if relationships weren't important, then you would not be seeking a partner. You would not be seeking to have children. You would not be seeking to have good relationships with your children, with your spouse, with your siblings, with your parents, like with the people in your business, in your work life. This relationship thing is not a small thing. We are humans. We're social beings. And even if you're an introvert, I very often, in the Science of the Nafs, one of the things I teach my students is about being an introvert and an extrovert, and how to maximize your way of being in the world to still have amazing relationships. And so we want to talk about that in this episode. But before we dive in, I want to say to you, look, if you want to be totally on board with what I'm doing, what I'm sharing with my students, like, I am going to be sharing almost daily, if not every other day, emails and videos and audios that I'm going to be sharing for the next 100 days. This is going to help you to take a step by step to overcoming every challenge in your life. Let me tell you what the premise of this is. The premise, it's off the back of a book that I've been writing now since Ramadan 2022. I began writing this book. In fact, I began writing this book about mastering the mind, mastering life, through the science of the Nafs, which is Quran and Sunnah, revelation, right? So the thing is, mastering the mind is the most fundamental thing that you and I could ever want to focus our lives on. But because we don't do that, because we weren't taught that, because this isn't a part of the curriculum in any school, university, even if you are a psychology student, like talk about missing the mark, like you will find that you're still struggling yourself. Like many of my students who come in from a background in, with decades of experience in psychology, still struggle with the mind. And when you start to understand what I share with you in this book that I'm writing, I'm going to publish soon, next year, inshallah. But in this book, what I am sharing is the lessons that I'm going to be sharing with you over the next 100 days. So if you want to know what's going to be in the book, then you want to follow this video series, you want to follow the podcast series, you want to follow the emails that I send out. All of this is based on the science of the Nafs, which is the Quran and Sunnah based psychology and behavioral science. And when you apply this stuff into your life, you're going to have a great life. So anyway, let's get straight into this. I want to talk to you about three things that are going to change your life if you focus on these three things. And of course, we will drip feed this stuff out into our lives so that we can have incremental and consistent growth. Number one, spirituality. Now, what does it mean to be spiritual? Very often, this term spirituality has been dragged through the mud. And so in the Muslim like space, let's just say under the Islamic camps, you've got like two main camps. You've got the non-spiritual, they don't call themselves that, but there is no such thing as spirituality. And then you've got the really spiritual, the people who are into tasawwuf and all of this stuff. I'm not talking about either or, right? What I am talking about in terms of spirituality, I want you to understand a definition which is really simple, right? And it is based on the verse of the Quran, Surah Al-Ra'd, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. Like, this is spirituality. Allah tells us that it is this state of connection, and the connection, it happens through your thinking, right? Because you and I, we view our lives and the world through our thinking. That's the lens through which you look at your life. So spirituality is important for everyone. And when you feel a spiritual void, like if you've been from the camp of no spirituality forever, then you feel that spiritual void, and you know it because it results in a lot of anger and frustration. It results in you not feeling connected and forever feeling like you're not good enough. You're not, you have to do all of these rituals in order to be more spiritual. But the more you do the rituals, the less you feel spiritual, because you feel like it's, habitual, it's ada, it's something that you keep on doing. And ada or ritual is actually good, right? It's actually, the manasik of Islam, the rituals of Islam, these are actually good things. Like, of course, they're foundational. But what I mean is, ritual worship is a good thing because it makes it easy for us. Allah has created us to be efficient when we don't have to think about everything we do. However, when you want to be connected to Allah, like, you need to be spiritual. What does spiritual actually mean? You need to think about Allah, right? You need to think about Allah. Mental well-being. Look, if you feel mentally and emotionally stuck in your life, like, you're going to feel like you don't have this connection with your Creator. A lot of times when people, are mentally stuck, emotionally stuck, what they say is that they don't have this feeling of safety in their lives. And think about this, ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, right? It's only in this dhikr of Allah that the qulub, the heart, feels this, tama'nina. Tama'nina is a state of, it's a state of reassurance, it's a state of security. But what it does for us is that it actually makes us feel connected, it makes us feel safe. And when you feel safe and your mind is calm, because that's the fruits of safety, your mind is calm. Like, if you don't feel safe, adrenaline's rushing, you're rushing around, you're running around, and you feel hectic. Life feels hectic. Mentally, we feel hectic. So the thing is, in order to feel spiritually calm, You need to have a connection with Allah. Spirituality is your connection to your creator. It is not this super duper, like, esoteric hyperventilation type of spirituality. That's not what I'm talking about. It's not, the kind of spirituality which is just rituals, and you don't ever feel connected to Allah. You never feel safe. You never feel that calmness of your mind. You don't feel that serenity. Serenity is just like a once in a blue moon thing that you have. Maybe when you go to Umrah, you feel it then, and any other time you're not feeling it. Or maybe you feel it in Ramadan, but any other time you don't have it. Spirituality is the natural state of the human being when they are aligned with their creator. When you submit yourself to your creator, you will feel that spiritual calm. Now, when I say submit yourself, it begins with the heart. The Prophet ﷺ, taught us about the heart, taught us that if the heart is sound, if it is good, like the whole body is good. And this is such an important thing because your mind is your heart. Your mind is your heart. Islam teaches us again and again and again that the center of your life is your mind. Your mind, you have to give it the information that's required. Like knowledge is required. It's a prerequisite. But once you've got the knowledge, then you have to nurture that knowledge. And the nurturing of that knowledge happens through action. And the actions of spirituality is, the manasik, the rituals. What are the rituals? The rituals, the 5 pillars of Islam. Those are rituals. Like the 5, prayers that you and I should be feeling connected in. Those are rituals. But if they're just rituals and they're behaviors that you do, but you don't ever feel mentally and emotionally connected in that salah, in that dua that you're making, then you're going to feel a disconnect. And very often this happens and people feel disconnected in their salah. They feel like, you hear everyone talking about this this state of khushu that no one seems to be able to get. And khushu is when your heart is submissive. It really does lower itself to a point where it connects to Allah from a place of dependency. When your heart is connected to Allah from a place of dependency, like you will feel a surge of iman. Iman is belief. It's a state of your heart, right? And let's just simplify this. This is a state of emotional, mental being. Like it happens through your thinking, through your uttering, when you're reciting, when you're reading Quran, when you're making dua, when you are thinking and you're thinking out loud, you're thinking quietly, but ultimately it creates this sense of spiritual connection. It creates this spiritual connectedness that you cannot feel without dhikrullah, without remembering Allah, whether it's in your salah, whether it's in dua, whether it's in the tasbih, whether it's in the adhkar in the morning or the evenings, whether it's just throughout your day. Like that connection, you and I, we need it. Everyone needs it. It helps you to create this sense of calm that takes over your life. This is so important to understand. So this is number one. I'm going to be talking about this a lot. I'm going to help you to actually re-nurture this, and we're going to do like some serious steps over the next 100 days in order to up level our mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. This is key to life. Without this, like, you would feel at a loss. Without this, you will feel resentful. You'll feel as though you're making dua, Allah never answers your dua, which is never true, but we feel as though it's true. And then we feel resentful. We don't like how our lives have turned out. We thought that if we gained all of these things in life that everyone told us we should gain, that we would be happy. But now you're married, you've got kids, or you're not married and you've got no kids, and you're thinking that if I'm married and I have kids, I'd be better off. And the married one is thinking if I wasn't married and I didn't have those kids, I wouldn't have all the stress. But actually, neither of those circumstances create the mental and emotional well-being. Like, yes, relationships are super important, right? But your connection, your mental and spiritual well-being is key. This is so important. I cannot emphasize enough. Number two, what we want to talk about is habits that set you up for success. Habits like these, this is like what I was talking about earlier, ada. Like this is something that we do again and again and again, and it's what makes it a habit, the fact that we do it. Now, success is relative. So let me just be quite frank. Success is relative to the individual. What you believe is success, someone else will believe is not success. So it's relative to you and your expectations, what you want, right? Your desires. And what you want is going to be different to what everyone else wants. So it's really important that you don't want for what everyone else wants, and you decide, you take some time out to actually think about what is required in your life for you to feel that success. And a lot of times what people think is that if I have more money, or if I have more relationships, if I get married again, or if I get divorced, if I move country, I mean, all of these situations, I have them in my institute. Like when I'm taking my students through the journey, they all, when they come in, a lot of times they're thinking, if I get divorced, I'm going to be much better off. And then if they do get divorced, then they're really, really unhappy. And they're thinking like, I'm traumatized by this marriage and what was happening. And so it doesn't turn out the way you think. Others think, oh, if I move country, I go to a different country where things are better, things are going to be much better. And then when you get to the other side, it always looks greener on the other side. But when you get there, you realize that your mind is still with you. Your emotional stress is still with you. You've just gone from one place to another, and you carried your mental and emotional struggle with you from one place to another. It's like going from one marriage to another. You carry your mental and emotional struggles from one marriage to another if you don't resolve them. So moving country, or going from one marriage to another, or going from one relationship to another, or going from, you're the problem to I'm the problem, none of that solves anything. So what we need to set up like habits, like behaviors that actually create the results that we want, right? In order for you to do that, like, I got to tell you this, like, because very often when I talk about habits, everyone's thinking about what are the hacks, how do we do this? How do we do this habit thing, and, triggers and all that stuff. And, there are some great books and, stuff, like maybe you can see behind me, some of this stuff, which is good for strategy, but none of that stuff works. None of that stuff works if you do not have the number one thing dialed in. What is the number one thing? It is to have your mind dialed in. Your mind is the most habitual thing in your life. Every habit in your life, every behavior, everything that you have been doing in your life, it is the fruits and the results of your mind. Your mind is creating all of it. Like where you focus your attention, your energy will flow there, meaning your behaviors will flow there. You will put all of your motivation and energy and drive into that because you think that that is what needs sorting. And I'll be honest, like for many years, I had the same problem, right? I'm an action taker, so I'm just doing and doing and doing and doing. And it is not giving me the results that I want. Like, yes, I'm, getting some results and, they're great results, but I don't feel good about my results. And no matter how much I get, no matter what I do, no matter how much I accumulate, my life doesn't seem to feel any better. What is the problem? The problem is the mind. The mind is the most fundamental, it's the key to your life. If you make this good, if you take charge of your mind, then what will happen is that your whole life will follow, your whole life will change. And this is one of the most important things that any individual, any human being could learn. Like, if you don't learn this, you're going to forever be chasing habits and strategies and hacks and to-dos and what can you do to make it better? How do you become more efficient? Listen, efficiency is created mentally. And when you become mentally and emotionally efficient, effective, and powerful, this is like what Revelation does for us. It makes us mentally and emotionally powerful. When you become that way, then your behaviors will follow. It will be shaped by that. It totally changes everything. It's a game changer. I have spent my entire life trying to figure this out. And as I have come to figure it out, I have used it to solve every problem. My relationship challenges, my parenting challenges, my, productivity challenges, the procrastination challenges, all of the things that you think are the biggest problem, and they're all behavioral. I get it, because that's all we see. We see the behaviors, we see the fruits, we see the results. But when you focus on this and this alone, you will not be able to maintain it, because what will happen is you'll default. After a while, you keep it going for a while, but then after a while, you have a moment of what we think is weakness and you default back to the old way of being. And what creates that is something which is much more consistent in your life. It is the state of your mind. Your mind is consistent, and your behaviors, your results, and everything is consistent with that. And so this is so important. Over the next 100 days, I'm going to be talking about this a lot. This is the number one thing that I train my students on, to master the science of the nafs, so that they can understand their mind, emotions, behaviors. And we go through like a journey with revelation, like nurturing your heart with revelation. It will change your life. Like I have, like one of the really annoying things that I get very often, and I understand, listen, I came out of education, went into the corporate world. I did the same things that everyone else said you had to do to get success. And when I attained those things, when I drove those cars, when I did those things, I realized that this is short-lived. This does not last. You have that. It's like you buy the new car or the new thing, or you just newly married or whatever it is. And at the beginning, it feels amazing. And then after a while, it just starts to wither. It starts to just slowly go away. And then you're looking for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And hopefully that's not the next wife, or the next whatever, right? But this subject, like I'm coaching on it on a regular basis. I'm working with my clients, doing therapy on these issues, because we create such a mental mess, like we find it difficult to get out of. But here's the thing. If you get your spirituality right, you get your success habits right. What's the number one success habit? Mastering your mind. Number one success habit, master your mind. You are not your thoughts. I'm going to be talking to you about that, but you are not your thoughts, but master your mind. This is key. And one of the foundational ways that we do this is that we purify the mind of all the junk. You ever heard the term purification of the soul? Like, purify your mind of all the junk. That's a better way to put it. That's like modern day terminology, right? Purify your mind of negativity, purify your mind of all the stuff that creates the awful feelings that you feel, that make you not want to take action, that make you want to procrastinate, that make you want to just be very ungrateful about all the blessings in your life. And I'm not saying that we do this on purpose, but we if you recognize what's happening, you can change it. That's number two. Number three is relationships. I'm not going to talk to you much about that today, because we're going to talk about that a lot over the next 100 days. So here's the thing. Relationships are at least 50% of your life. Like I say this, sometimes it's a third of your life, but that's a lie. It's 50%. Oh, it's not a lie, but it would not be an exaggeration to say it's 50% of your life. Why? Because we are social beings. We're social beings. We are people that need to connect. We need to feel connected, and we need to feel a part of the herd. Now, I don't subscribe to this, Freudian stuff about the herd and all that stuff. Yes, we are communal. We are people that are meant to connect. This is why in Islam, like we have, Silat al-Rahim. Silat al-Rahim is the foundation of what ties the family together. We don't lose our way because we maintain relationships. And in order to maintain relationships, you really have to be in a good mental and emotional state. Like that is the key, right? Now, very often, look, I'll be quite open about this. Very often, like what we do is that we just want to blame, right? We just want to blame. We want to say it's the husband, or it's the wife, or it's the parents, or it's the siblings, or it's the kids, or it's someone that has to take the blame, because when someone else takes the blame, then you're off the hook. And the problem with this is that, yes, you may be off the hook for a little while, but it takes away all your agency. It takes away all your power, all your ability to actually change your relationship dynamic, even change the whole relationship. Like when I take my students through training in their relationships, and I train them to become the most profound parents, the most amazing spouse, and to just be an amazing human being that everyone else likes to connect with. And listen, like these are skills. You don't have to be born with these things. Allah gave us revelation to bridge the gap between what you have and what you need in order to have the most optimum life. And so when you are willing to change and you're willing to become the person that has amazing relationships, then you're going to find that you will stop being so upset and angry. You will stop being filled with anxiety and, like always worried about people and what they think about you. You will stop doubting yourself. You will stop exaggerating in your mind about what the reality of your love life is. If your love life is not going anywhere, it's stale, it's inactive, then you can change that. You don't have to change your spouse in order to change your love life. Just put some love into the life, and before you know it, you can actually revitalize that relationship. It's like doing resuscitation. And I don't want to say mouth to mouth, but like if you're resuscitating your relationship with your husband or your wife, like you want to become someone who is actually connected to them, and not through all of your expectations, because your expectations destroy your relationships. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't expect good things from our relationships, but we build relationships together, and we begin by building those relationships by not hating the people that we want to have relationships with. If you hate the people you want to have relationships with, how on earth will you have a relationship with them? If you're always angry at them, 365, all right, let's be kind. 300 days a year you're angry at them, and the 65 days you're able to have good days. If that's your relationships, then how can you actually create change in that relationship? So here's the thing that you can do immediately to begin change. First of all, stop hating on the people that you want to have a relationship with. If you hate the people you want to have a relationship with, it's because you have hateful thoughts about them. So if you start to change that, you will find that how you feel about them starts to change. It will be slow, but it will be for sure it will happen. And secondly, you want to spend the best part of 365 days in creating a compound effect. Just show up today and be good in your relationship. Just begin there. If you do that and you keep on doing it, you will become a pro at your life. You will become a pro at your relationships. You will become a pro at doing everything that I've been talking to you about in this episode. These three things, they're fundamental for success in life. Because if you don't have good relationships and you're getting older and you don't have good relationships, you're going to feel lonely. And then you're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel like Allah doesn't give you relationships. And listen, you can have relationships if you want. You can have relationships that flourish. You just need to become the person that has the best relationship. That's the fastest, quickest, easiest way to do it. And I train my students to do this every day. I am forever coaching and doing therapy with like couples and people and all of this stuff. Why? Because everyone wants to have a good relationship. Everyone wants to have intimate relationships with their spouse. And that's because Allah made it halal for you. You don't have to hate. I mean, look, if you hate on your spouse, how the hell are you going to have a good active relationship with them? You're not going to have. You're going to be busy like working or studying or doing something else that actually makes you feel better temporarily. And look, I know that many of us, like, we use Islam to do this. And recently I heard this thing, spiritual bypassing. Like, I thought to myself, what a load of nonsense. Like, I understand the concept. I understand what it means. Like, people are using, Islam to make themselves feel better, which, like, fair enough. Like, why not? Why not feel better? But what the problem isn't that Islam doesn't make you feel better. We know that Islam, like connection to Allah, makes you feel better. But the problem is that we're thinking that just because you feel better because of that connection to Allah, then all of a sudden your problem's not going to be solved. Like, your problem needs to be solved. You need to learn a method of solving the problem. This is what I train my students on. This is what I'll be talking to you about. The sessions that I share with you going forward, I'm going to make them short and succinct. I want you to actually be able to take this stuff and use it in your life. Like, join me, go to themuslimlifecoach.org/pro, P-R-O, and sign up. It's free. I'm going to be sharing it with you over the next 100 days. And essentially what I'm going to be sharing with you is the very things that I am talking about in my book. I'm in the third version of rewriting my book or editing it and getting it ready. I want it to be so powerful that it impacts the whole of your life, not just one aspect of it, but the mental and emotional power that it will give you is simply because realigning your life with what I've talked to you about today. if this is of interest to you, go sign up. It's a free thing that I'm going to be doing over the next 100 days. You want to use this to up-level your life. Do not think for a second that you are stuck forever. No one is stuck forever. You can create a life that you love. And listen, I'm going to keep it really, what shall I say? I'm going to keep it very real. Like, if you don't like what I say, you can just go somewhere else. Like, you don't have to take what I say. But essentially what I'm giving you is the Quran and Sunnah in a much more applicable way, like one that will help you problem solve, one that will help you have better mental and emotional health, one that will help you have amazing relationships. And you're the only one that can create these results. I can show you how to do it, but you are the power in your life. I'm going to show you how to tap into that power. I'm going to show you how to do all of this stuff, and you will love this journey. I'm going to leave you on that. Jazakumullah khair. I'll see you very soon. Assalamu alaikum. Hey guys, thanks for listening in on this podcast. If you are ready to up-level your mind, emotions, and relationships using a Quranic solution, you're going to love this podcast and what we are going to be sharing over the coming episodes. This is the most fundamental training that you're going to go through in your life. You can use it to transform your life, your mental and emotional health, your relationships, how you parent, how you are in your marriage, and truly your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are loving this and you want more of it, click subscribe. Or if you want one of our free trainings, go to themuslimlifecoach.org and sign up for the free training. You're going to love it. I'll see you on the inside. Jazakumullah khair.